This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Here we go. Welcome to a Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Big Monday, Super Monday. Michael Remis here in the host chair for Hustler. If you've been watching the last week, paying attention to his social media posts, you'll know he is away. So if you wanted to get those hot response to the Super Bowl, we'll have to wait. Maybe he'll post a video in celebration. We'll see. But I'm here looking forward to getting it going. Today I'll be joined shortly by Connor Hrabchak. You missed it. The most recent Jets Weekly is on our YouTube channel right here and on our podcast feed as well. So check that out. And Jeff Hamilton joining the show as well from the Free Press. CFL free agency kicks off tomorrow. It's been kicking off for like a week here with this negotiation period, but the real thing tomorrow. So we'll talk with Jeff about that. Jamie Thomas, Jets TV, and the Ground Control podcast. So lots to get to. Shout out to the sponsors. Without them, I don't think we'd be here. Canadian Club, Modern Man, Manitoba Battery, Winnipeg Jets, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Sport Manitoba, and Coolbet, of course. Hopefully you did okay on your cool bets yesterday during the Super Bowl. A lot of wagering for that one, but a lot of big topics today. The Jets snapping their losing streak on the weekend. The Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. How about them Chiefs? It's 3 and 5 years back to back for the first time in 19 years since the Patriots. And a lot of conversation about the appropriate way to score on an empty net goal. That was Rielly, Greig of the Senators. Didn't do it in the way the Maple Leafs like. So Morgan Rielly comes in with the cross check. I did put out a poll. What should we start with today? And I put those three. We got 132 votes. Shout out to everyone in chat. If you are here, please make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're closing in on 11K subs. We got 10,949. So according to my math, 51 more till the big 11K. But it's pretty close. 45%. Want to talk 44% now. Jets snapped the losing streak. 30% want to talk about the Chiefs. 26% want some real spicy hot takes on the appropriate way to score an empty net goal or the appropriate response. So yeah, this is Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'm not surprised that the Jets snapping. We were all concerned last week. 5 games. Hadn't seen that before, but you've seen some other teams slip lately. Colorado. They haven't been so hot. Coming out of the break, Edmonton 16-game win streak got snapped. They lost to Vegas, and then they lost to the Dubois Kings on the weekend. And we did have some Jets news after the win. They placed Dominic Tornado on waivers, and what would that mean for today for practice? Let's get to that. Connor Hrabchak, noted 49ers fan. Connor, everyone's asking, how are you feeling? We got to check in on you, man. How you doing over there? 49ers losing in the Super Bowl. Let me look up the score. What was it? 25-22?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Overtime, 25-22. Patrick Mahomes is inevitable. Yeah, not feeling great. But hey, I was on the program after the Niners beat the Lions saying, this is why we love sports, the emotional roller coaster, and I can't back out of that take now that I'm on the wrong end of it. So this is still why we love sports, is the heartbreak part of it as well. But yeah, tough morning for sure.
Incredible drama, incredible theater. We'll get to that, but we want to talk Jets. We do have some waiver wire news. We'll start off with that and today's practice and get to the win on Saturday. So Dominic Toninato, he was put on waivers, and any updates? Did he clear?
I haven't seen a tweet yet from an Elliott Friedman or a Frank Saravalli or a Chris Johnson. It's 107. What's going on here? Is there?
Oh, here Scott Billick. Scott Billick says that he cleared.
Okay.
Elliott doesn't have it. Yeah. Why is Elliott so late? What's he been doing? Following this Morgan Rielly hearing?
Yeah.
But Scott Billick tweeting, Toninato clears waivers. So a lot of talk. Who's he making room for? Who's he going down for? And David Gustafson today in a regular jersey at Jets practice. Big win for the Jets on Saturday, Connor. I mean, let's go. Big win, 2-1 over Pittsburgh. How are you feeling about the Jets' play in the win over Pittsburgh?
I thought it was good. I mean, Rick Bowness and a lot of fans and a lot of the Jets players as well, not happy with the second period. Rick Bowness called it a frustrating period and just kind of left it at that, quote unquote. But I thought they played good enough to win the hockey game. The goal scoring still not really there. The top line we can talk about in a minute here. They only score 2 goals as a team, but hey, you got to take wins how you can get them. Connor Hrabchak, once again, fantastic. He was the first star of the week on Winnipeg Jets Weekly. And I think it's good for the team, obviously, just to get back in the win column and prove to themselves that this fluky streak is just that, and they can beat a team. And yes, Pittsburgh, second night of a back-to-back, but I thought they played well enough to win, and they're facing a can't lose on Wednesday night now coming up this week.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. Got everyone out there for date night. Valentine's Day against the Sharks on a Wednesday. Couple days off here. They did practice today, and it appears that these are the lines going forward now. You know, so much talk after the Monahan trade. Oh, got to get him in between Perfetti and Ehlers, but they seem to have gone away from that. You know, you couldn't score for a couple games, and you have the lines now in practices, and this was what they were on Saturday. Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, Perfetti, Monahan, Velarde, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, Barron, Nemestikov, Iafallo. David Gustafson's back in a regular jersey. He was on IR for a lengthy period of time. Rasmus Kupari. They're the fourth or fifth line guys. Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Stanley, Schmidt, and Brendan Dillon. We know he is suspended. And it just seems, they couldn't score, shuffle up the lines. Nikolai Ehlers, I mean, is he here? Is he here to stay now? Lock button on the top line. Him and Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor are looking pretty good there on Saturday.
I'd hope so. I mean, him and Mark Scheifele clearly have chemistry. They established chemistry when they had their franchise record-setting win streak when Kyle Connor was out of the lineup. And now, honestly, on that game on Saturday night, Kyle Connor looked like the third wheel on that line. It was Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers doing things in the offensive zone. They obviously had the goal that got things started. And Nikolai Ehlers was just making plays, and that's what he does. And I think the Jets are a better team. They're better off when Nikolai Ehlers is playing more minutes, playing top-line minutes, and playing with Mark Scheifele. They're going to score more goals. And the lines needed to change given the recent slump. And I liked the move, kind of loading up your top line in a sense. And it clearly worked out because Ehlers and Scheifele picked up right where they left off.
Yeah, that line combining for 13 shots on goal, 20 attempts, 11 chances, and 4 high danger. And Ken Wiebe noting that in the Winnipeg Free Press. And you saw, Nikolai Ehlers in that first period, some back and forth, back and forth opportunities there. The Jets with a couple odd man rushes. Scheifele tries to sneak the pass over to Morrissey, not able to. Nikolai Ehlers with a chance and just, kind of gets in his stick and looks like he's about to shoot. But then Scheifele opens up for the one-timer and blasts it in a beautiful looking play. And I thought Ehlers had some nice, passing, setting up Kyle Connor. We know he's got a great shot as well. So I agree. I think Nikolai Ehlers, he's shown that when he's in lineup or he's getting minutes, when he is on the ice, he produces at a rate better than just about any other player on the Jets. And they want to score more goals. I think playing him on the ice more in better situations would be beneficial, and we saw that on Saturday. Connor Hrabchak stepping up as well, 35 saves on 36 shots. You know that the first was good, third was good, second. What happened there, Connor, in that second period? Outshot 16-7. What do you make of that second period, and what did the team have to say about that after the game?
A few penalties, a few momentum killers in that sense. Logan Stanley took a few penalties. But after the game, Nikolai Ehlers said that without Connor Hrabchak in that period, they don't win the game. They simply didn't play well enough. I think the penalties that they took kind of disrupted their like Rick Bowness likes to run 4 lines and roll his lines. So that disrupts the flow a little bit. And Pittsburgh on the second night of a back-to-back, maybe finding their legs after the first period and the Jets coming out flat. But it was definitely concerning because they could have easily given up 2-3 goals and that would have been the game right there. But Connor Hrabchak, that's why you pay him. That's why he's the best goalie in the world right now. And they come away with the win despite kind of sleepwalking through that middle frame. And then I thought the third period was just action-packed, back and forth, chances galore at both ends. Alex Iafallo missed like a glorious chance in the middle of the slot with like 4 minutes left in the third period. And Sean Monahan, I mean, he had the fake clapper on the PK as well that went off the post. But the Jets definitely had their chances. They generated more than enough, but gave up a lot as well. But Connor Hrabchak was there, as he usually is.
Yeah, hey, just like the Chiefs have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, the Jets have a guy like Connor Hrabchak who can certainly shut the door at any time. Yeah, I mentioned Nino Niederreiter, 15-game goalless streak. That was snapped with, hey, he's in the right spot. The puck squeaks out, and he just puts it behind Tristan Jarry, who got the start after it was Ned on Friday for Pittsburgh. And, an emotional game there Friday for Pittsburgh in Minnesota against Marc-Andre Fleury. And the Jets catching him on the second end of a back-to-back. And it happens pretty often. They go to Minnesota and then come here. A lot of talk on this show and around about the sixth defenseman who's filling in for Brendan Dillon. Logan Stanley in his second game. There's a lot going on with Logan Stanley in the game. He was on for all of the goals, and he's also in the penalty box a bit. I mean, what do you make of Logan Stanley? And Scott O'Neill did say after the suspension he's going to get 3 games, and I think some people thought maybe Ville Heinola would get a call up, but no, it was David Gustafsson who did get activated. So what do you make? Are we making too much of this sixth defenseman discussion? And what do you think of Logan Stanley's game here?
I'll answer that by saying yes, and then getting into the discussion. But yes,
here, one sec. I screwed something up before you get into it.
Okay. Sure.
Here, hold on. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, Logan Stanley. The quintessential Logan Stanley game. He takes a few penalties. The Jets. Twitter, like fans are going nuts about how bad he's playing. And then there's those hockey stat cards that get put out on like game score composition. And he was like the number 1 Jet in game score, which is just hilarious because for 3 hours, people on Twitter were like just slamming him for playing bad. But I thought, I don't think he was the best Jet. I also don't think he was the worst Jet, like most people would say, but the penalties definitely did play a huge factor. The pairing of Stanley and Schmidt got scored on. Like you said, he was on for the goals that the Jets scored as well. He even picked up a secondary assist on Nino Niederreiter's. But again, he's the 6th, 7th defenseman. So how much is this really going to matter come playoff time down the stretch? I'm not really sure, but he hasn't played in over a month. And this was just his second game back. So I know it's kind of making a lot of excuses for him, but I thought he played okay. The penalties, Rick Bowness definitely wasn't happy about. And going forward, he's got one more game here until Brendan Dillon comes back and he goes back to being the 7th defenseman. No one really expected Logan Stanley to come in and win a job over someone. He's just kind of filling in for Brendan Dillon in the meantime, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah, him and Sean Monahan, Rick Bowness touched on both of them. I'm going to play that clip in a second, but Monahan still searching for that elusive first point as a Winnipeg Jet, and almost had it there with the shorthanded fake clapper shot, hit iron. I'm sure it would have erupted. We learned his goal song, Hustle, by Kendrick Lamar. Or Humble, sorry. Humble. My bad. Sorry, I thought it was that was good. We thought it was gonna be Moni Moni by Billy Idol, who was featured in a Super Bowl commercial yesterday, but no. Was it Humble? Sorry,
Humble.
Hustle. I'm thinking about Hustler here, and I said Hustle. I'm thinking about how I'm in the chair and Hustler's away if you're just tuning in. But Monahan got switched around there at the end. What do you make of the line changes? But he was back with Perfetti and Velarde. So what do you make of Monahan? Is he settling in here with the Winnipeg Jets after a couple games?
Yeah, I think he's looked better with every game. I really did like the line of Perfetti, Monahan, Velarde. And a lot of people pointed out, and they're right, that those seem to be like three of the slowest skaters in terms of foot speed or maybe straight line speed that the Jets have up front. But I thought that kind of worked to their advantage. They're all moving at the same speed. They're working the puck down low. Perfetti made a few gorgeous passes, and I thought that line really worked. But yeah, Rick Bowness at the end made a switch there. Monahan was in between Iafallo and Nemestikov, and Perfetti, Velarde, and Barron all kind of got the short end of a bench shortening by Rick Bowness. Then they got a power play, so those players went out for the power play. But that'll be interesting to see if Bowness continues to do that going forward. He alluded to that line being like a good shutdown line. And if, 2-1 games happen a lot, and will the Jets go to that? They kept the Lowry line intact. They kept the Scheifele line intact. And then their third line or second line, quote unquote, was Monahan, Iafallo, and Nemestikov. Three defensively responsible players. But yeah, to answer the question, Sean Monahan, I think he's been better with every single game. He's building chemistry, and it's only a matter of time before he gets some points, he gets some goals here. He's coming really close. Yeah,
and he's also been huge and very trustworthy in the face-off circle, which is part of the reason why they brought him in. But let's get to some Rick Bowness. We've talked about our thoughts. Here's Rick Bowness weighing in on the play of Sean Monahan and Logan Stanley, who we just talked about.
He's a smart player, and he's very reliable defensively, so he's going to be going to use them. You get a 2-1 lead, and they're coming, and just you get they're all reliable players, right? So that was a good line for us.
And then Logan Stanley, his second game back after a long break. How is he at in terms of?
Logan's been good. Considering what we've done to him and only playing him is the number of games we've played, Logan has done very well. We're very happy with what he's done.
There's Rick Bowness there on Saturday, and we mentioned Nino Niederreiter scoring his first goal in 15 games, and Rick Bowness touched on that line and their play on Saturday.
If you look at the game in Philly, that line had 4 or 5 great chances to score. It just wasn't going in. We met with them this morning, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get some breaks. It's going to go in. Oh, okay. Everything all right at home? Everything good? Do you need to answer that? Oh, you're good. Okay. That line they've been very good. And you saw them tonight. We needed to get that third period off on the right foot, and they did it. They got out, they got the puck deep, and they got the forecheck going. So they did their job, and it's nice to see them finally get rewarded for a goal.
Nice to see him get rewarded after Samuel Ersson almost got his second shutout against the Jets on Thursday against the Philadelphia Flyers. And last one from Bowness, we talked about the top line. Here's Rick Bowness weighing in on the Connor Scheifele Ehlers line.
Oh, they were flying. Look at the chance. We were walking in all alone, breakaways, 2-on-1s right off the bat. So the wind's got to help us, and eventually those pucks will start going in for us.
There it is, Rick Bowness after the game Saturday. We hope to have some comments from today's practice. Today's Jets practice that happened, started at 11 and ended probably around noon. So we'll have that for you then. But they went back to the same lines. David Gustafsson activated, and I don't know. I guess that's about it for the Jets as they get ready for San Jose on Wednesday. And they'll be without, actually, big news from San Jose, they'll be without Thomas Hertl undergoing a procedure. We can close the book on our Jets discussion for now. We'll get Jamie Thomas in later, but I think, our next, we did the poll at the beginning of the show. What do you want to hear? Connor's time for the Super Bowl. I have to say, an epic, one of the best games that we've seen in a while. The first half, not great, but all in all, that was one to remember, I'm sure. Oh, I got you muted there. Sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
I said, I'll remember it, but not in the way that other people will. It's going to stick with me in a bad way. But yeah, looking at it from an outside perspective, incredible game. You get overtime in the Super Bowl with the new rules. That's pretty awesome. The fourth quarter was back and forth, both teams scoring. And Brock Purdy kind of lived up to the moment, in my opinion. I thought he played great, especially given all the criticism coming into this week. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes gets the job done. I want to get your quick thoughts on this. There was an article in The Athletic on the call of the final touchdown and how they butchered it. It was Jim Nantz, Tony Romo.
Oh, yeah.
And Nantz calls Kansas City's hit the jackpot and they're going back to back or whatever. And then Romo just goes on for 30, 40 seconds on the play call or something. Yeah. And there's this whole article about how they should have just let it be, let the moment present itself, let the crowd go nuts. Were you kind of shocked at the way they handled the game-winning touchdown?
A lot of criticism about Tony Romo all year, saying, "Well, I don't know, Jim," over and over, and he's made some weird comments. I actually enjoyed Tony Romo for most of the game. I thought he had good, solid analysis, stayed away from some of the cliches But yeah, at the end, I read that was Andrew Marchand in The Athletic. Mm-hmm. Big fan of his podcast as well. And he's critical about guys saying this is the biggest game of the year. There's 100 million people. I haven't seen the actual numbers. I'm sure 100 million people or something watching. You got to let that moment breathe. And Tony Romo did step over Jim Nantz a little there. But I think it's hard to talk about this Super Bowl, Connor, without talking about Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and witnessing greatness, 25-22 win for Kansas City, the Chiefs' third Super Bowl win in 5 seasons. It's official. Their dynasty Mahomes cementing his legacy, and he's already a Hall of Famer, third Super Bowl MVP, connecting with Mecole Hardman, who started the season with the Jets before being brought back to the Chiefs mid-season. What a start to Mahomes in his career. 6 seasons. He hasn't finished worse than the AFC Championship game. First half, one to forget. Sluggish start. 0 points in the first quarter. They had fumbles, turnovers. Mahomes, I was surprised they even sacked him. The only TD pass in the first half thrown by receiver Juwan Jennings, and a caught by a running back, Christian McCaffrey. We had Jake Moody setting a Super Bowl record for 55-yard field goal. Only be broken later by Harrison Butker, who could have been who's MVP candidate. Both kickers, incredible. And, leading 10-3, at the half, the 49ers were able to hold the Chiefs offense in check and limit their explosiveness. And I really thought they would be able to. And the Chiefs struggled to put up points all year. The receivers, inconsistent, a lot of drops. Didn't have too many drops yesterday. I think there was one big one by Watson. But coming to the game, you were confident, Connor, as a 49ers fan, into the game, confident in the defense. And the offense, even though they got smoked in that game against Baltimore, they were favored by 2 points, stayed there for 2 weeks. So I don't know how you were feeling coming into the game and at the half.
Yeah. I was confident coming in and at halftime feeling great. That muffed punt that gave the Chiefs great field position where they just threw a touchdown the very next play. That I think was the turning point for sure. You just can't have special teams mistakes like that. You brought up Juwan Jennings throwing the touchdown pass. If the Niners, they go up 19-16 with a minute 40 left, and then the Chiefs go down and tie it, and we head to overtime. But if they had stopped them 19-16 with 2 minutes left, is Juwan Jennings the MVP for the 49ers? He threw a touchdown pass, and then he caught the touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. I think he was the second player ever to both throw and catch a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. So I don't know if he ends up winning the MVP because Brock Purdy didn't even throw a touchdown pass. Or I guess he threw the one to Juwan Jennings, but Juwan Jennings had a passing touchdown as well. So maybe it's Christian McCaffrey who caught the touchdown and had a ton of yards. But the MVP, if the Niners had won, would have been an interesting discussion because you had a receiver throw and catch a touchdown.
Yeah, second person ever you mentioned, Nick Foles was the other one, and I still can't believe that he led the Eagles to that Super Bowl win over the Patriots. Almost reminds me, I compared Cody Fajardo's game-winning drive against the Bombers to what Nick Foles did for the Eagles. But, for all the star power on San Francisco, you have McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kittle, and Ayuk. They really did nothing on defense. Nick Bosa couldn't match Patrick Mahomes' greatness. They come out of half leading 10-3, and they were in great field position. Patrick Mahomes threw a rare interception. He's been nearly perfect in the playoffs. They had great field position on the Kansas City 44, but the third quarter was a quarter to forget for the San Francisco offense. The first drive, incomplete pass, you had a false start to another incomplete pass, so you're not gaining yards, you're not taking time off the clock, and then Purdy has a 4-yard rush on 3rd and 15, so you have to punt after getting great field position. And the defense stepped up in the third quarter. KC had another 3-and-out. What did San Francisco do? Another 3-and-out on their own, and they didn't even hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey, who, they finally figured out in the fourth quarter, that they needed to give him the ball and overtime as well. But KC marched down. They scored a field goal, making it 10-6. And what did San Francisco do again to answer? Another 3-and-out. 3 straight 3-and-outs to start the third quarter. And as you mentioned, that's where the game changed. The defense did their job. They held KC to another 3-and-out, but on the punt, the ball hit the leg of a 49ers player, and Chris Conley saw it and attempted to pick it up, but he wasn't able to hold on to the ball. And I'm watching this game. I'm like, dude, why are you trying to pick it up? What are you doing there? But no, it hit a guy's leg. You saw him pointing, saying, hey, get out of the way, get out of the way. And that was kind of the play. And then, Mahomes to MVS. Bang, bang, first play, first lead of the game. And, after that third quarter, we got into the fourth quarter. Excellent. Turned into like one of a boring Super Bowl into one of the greatest finishes ever. The 49ers answered back with the TD of their own. Purdy leading them on a 14-play drive, which included that 4th down conversion to George Kittle. Where was that? The 15? And yes, Juwan Jennings became the second player in his Super Bowl history, a passing TD and a receiving TD. But that blocked extra point was huge, man. I mean, I don't want to say it changed the game, but if they're up 4 there, it's the points that you need to get are certainly different.
Yeah, and the Chiefs went down the field and had 9 seconds left with 2 plays at the end zone. Like they were around the red zone. And they threw a back shoulder to Kelsey. It was incomplete. 6 seconds left, down 3. They kick a field goal. We go to overtime. But had that extra point not been blocked, that's a 4-point game. They got to get a touchdown. So definitely the mix, the blocked extra point, and the muff on the punt return just absolutely destroyed. So special teams just because again, I thought Brock Purdy played great. I thought Christian McCaffrey played great. I thought the defense for the 49ers played great. And somehow they lost the game. Special teams, man, they matter.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, they traded field goals there, and you could have made an argument for either kicker, Moody or Butker, to be MVP. And I actually thought KC was going to end it there in regulation. But the San Francisco defense was good. I mean, you said, hey, you're going to hold them to 19 points in regulation. This San Francisco offense should be able to score 20, but they were not. And credit to the Chiefs defense for blitzing, putting pressure on Purdy. And we're going to overtime. This is pretty key about overtime. So Lindsey Jones of The Ringer reporting that Atlanta really not sure about the rules. And I don't know about you. They didn't really say on the broadcast. They're like, yeah, we got new rules. And they didn't really explain them. But they won. Atlanta won the coin toss, got the ball. And, you thought, you didn't really know what the rules were, because it used to be you could just get the ball and score a touchdown and win. Right. But not the case this time, and I think it was pretty clear there was an advantage for the Chiefs, who were basically in 4-down territory the whole time. And San Francisco can't score, and they get the field goal, and the Chiefs go down. Mahomes perfect all the way to Hardman. Sorry to relive this one. For you, Connor.
Yeah,
I mean,
rolling back through
full credit to the Chiefs on that one.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the overtime rules now, both teams get the ball, and you got to score a touchdown, and then the other team gets another shot to score and match it, and then it becomes sudden death, which it was before. If you scored a touchdown, you would win, but obviously now they've changed that. And the Niners, like I said, they had that 2-minute drill on defense where they went all the way down the field. So Kyle Shanahan wanted to give his defense a rest, took the ball under a bit of scrutiny for taking the ball, but I don't hate it. Like, your defense was just out there for 2 minutes, and they clearly needed a rest. So I didn't mind that call. But yeah, Mahomes is going to be perfect on the game-winning drive. You're gonna lose. So Patrick Mahomes cementing his legacy once again at the hands of the 49ers. Yeah,
incredible, historic finish. Connor's a great time. He'll bring you on at the end. We can talk about the appropriate way to score on an empty net goal.
Yes, right.
Appreciate you coming on. Check out Jets Weekly on our YouTube channel and podcast. There's Connor Hrabchak. We're going to bring in Jamie Thomas, Jets TV, Ground Control Podcast. But here's Hustler. One sec.
Hey, gang, if you want to clean it up a little bit and get looking good, you got to head over to our friends at Modern Man Barber Shops with 8 locations conveniently located throughout Winnipeg, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. Modern Man has you covered with a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Make an appointment and book your look via modernmanbarber.com and follow them on Instagram at Modern Man Barber Shops. Big shout out to our friends at battery.com or give them a call at 204-783-8787. We are, of course, counting down the days to February 29th when we're looking forward to teaming up with our great friends and sponsors at Canadian Club and the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival to take over the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame for the Canadian Whiskey Masterclass event. And, of course, watch the Jets take on the Dallas Stars. The event is sold out thanks to everyone that is going to come and see us. We can't wait to see you that night as well. In the meantime, for more information on the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival, check it out online. And when you're at your local Manitoba liquor marts, make sure to check out the Canadian Club display for all of Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. And remember, always enjoy responsibly. And hey, I should also give a shout out to the gang down at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. You know, they're getting ready for a big summer of 2024. If you're looking for an incredible fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot, featuring world-class fishing. And as great as the fishing is, the hospitality of the Terrence family and the Aikens team is even better. Find out more about availability and booking for 2024 at aikenslake.com. And be sure to check them out online on X and Instagram at Aikens Lake.
All right, there's Hustler with the ads. Thank you, Huss. He'll be back. He's in Mexico celebrating the Chiefs win. But we'll continue some Super Bowl talk. How can we not? Got to bring in Jamie Tom. We'll get to some Jets as well. Jamie, welcome back to the program. Great to have you on. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
What's going on? I know you're a big football guy, Jamie. What's your big Super Bowl party? What you got going on last night?
Like totally lame, man. I have nothing like with Hustler, and his life is like exactly what you dream of having. And at his age, like I would love to be in Mexico right now celebrating my team's Super Bowl win. However, that is not the case. I'm at home with my 3 kids, my dog, my cat, and my wife, and alcohol free. Just some pizza last night. Watched the game. Listened to my wife rant on about Taylor Swift quite a bit, which I don't blame her. But I do find this fascinating. Remis is Jim Nantz was on the Dan Patrick Show, and he talked about in a 3.5-hour broadcast, I believe for the AFC Championship game. He said in the 3.5-hour broadcast, Taylor Swift was on a total of 44 seconds. So in the whole scheme of things, is it that terrible? No. And we saw a whole lot of Giselle. So I'm not into the Taylor Swift is ruining football and stuff like that. However, I will say this: great game. But is lost in the shuffle is the free pass that Travis Kelce is getting for running into his coach. And all I've heard and read is, it's the passion part. He's a passionate player. If a coach grabs onto a player nowadays, and we've seen this in the social media outrage, if a coach grabs onto a player, professional or not, there's an outrage. You can't touch a player. You can't treat a player like that. Travis Kelce gets a free pass, A, because they won the Super Bowl, B, made a big catch in overtime, and C, he's Travis Kelce. So I know Andy Reid's not going to address it because that's the wrong time to do it. You're the coach. Travis Kelce is the right thing. You're not going to bring this up as a winning football team. I'm sure they're going to have a conversation. I was talking with Kelly Moore today with CJOB. Clearly, those two are going to have a conversation. But the free pass that Travis Kelce is getting today and down the stretch here about running into his coach because he's not happy about being on the field, and it's because he's a passionate player and wants to win, that doesn't fly for me. So it's fascinating to watch today and read the lack of accountability that Travis Kelce has to have in this situation for running into his coach. And I can't wait to talk to a sober Hustler about this whole conversation, about what happened here, because I know he's not going to be logical right now, but that is unacceptable on all kinds of levels. The fact that he's just getting a free pass to me and his behavior, it's not tolerable. It's not okay. And I don't think I'm a passionate guy and I want to win. If you run into Hustler today, if you bump him and you're not happy about your airtime, do you have a job tomorrow? Probably not. Right. So it's just like, I don't know. Listen, we've seen you lose the laptop, all that stuff. You had a job the next day, but you did not run into Hustler and because you're mad about your airtime. So here, it's so stupid that because Travis Kelce's a star player and then he gets this free pass. I don't get it. Listen, I got annoyed with the New England Patriots with their long streak. It is jealousy. You're sick and tired of seeing them. But the Kansas City Chiefs, we're sick and tired of seeing them win. And this is going to keep happening until somebody beats them. But you have to respect what they're doing. So the only problem I have about the whole thing yesterday is Travis Kelce and the free pass. But I do have to respect what Kansas City has done here. And I think you can flat out say they're a dynasty because of the way football is today and how challenging it is to win. And I think ahead now to this upcoming draft, apparently in 2025, there's not exactly a great crop of quarterbacks coming out. So this draft coming up with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, I go down the list of these guys. There should be teams falling all over themselves right now to go get one of these quarterbacks because you're not going to beat the Chiefs until you have somebody of the ability or somebody that's going to win you games when it matters most, the way that Patrick Mahomes has done so. Because we have to keep in mind, I look at Nick Bosa. He had 10 quarterback pressures yesterday like that. And the fact that he could not get to Patrick Mahomes because of his incredible ability to evade pressure and make big plays when it matters most, it just says everything you need to know about how special of a player he is. Should we be putting him in the GOAT conversation? Absolutely not, because There's a long way to go to that. It's great to see what he's doing, but until we're going, this is Patrick Mahomes' opportunity to win his 6th Super Bowl, then we can start talking about the GOAT, because I still feel that Joe Montana is ahead of Patrick Mahomes right now, and clearly Tom Brady is ahead of everybody. So please reassess this at the 6th Super Bowl championship, then we can talk about the GOAT for Patrick Mahomes.
Wow. I mean, he's had an incredible first 6 seasons, 3 Super
100%.
Bowls, 3 MVPs. His numbers,
Yes.
incredible. And,
Yes.
I picked, I didn't know, I kind of wavered on who I was going to pick, but I did pick San Francisco. Just the Chiefs, their offense hadn't been, the Chiefs' offense, hadn't been great, and it seemed like they could take advantage of them. And San Francisco, made a couple key mistakes. And if there's one guy who scares you with the ball in the last 2 minutes or in overtime, it's Mahomes. And Brock Purdy played solid, but on third down, San Francisco they stank. And the 3 and outs.
But that's all on Kansas City's defense, though. Like that defense on their first drive, their only drive of overtime, of course, the pressure that came on Purdy on third down, there was no way in hell he was getting that pass off. Like they could not combat when the pressure came. They had no answer for it. So I have to give the Chiefs defense full credit, because that defense allowed Kansas City's offense to get in order here. And it wasn't as dominant a year for Patrick Mahomes as it has been in years past. No. They won that Super Bowl because of their defense and a great drive at the end of the football game in overtime. So a lot is going to be made of how the 49ers didn't know the rules of overtime, how could that happen? But you have to stop taking things away from what Kansas City did. They came through when it mattered the most, and you have to respect that. And they didn't allow San Francisco to score a touchdown on their first drive, and their only drive of overtime. Flat out, Kansas City won that championship. San Francisco did not lose it.
Yeah, and give shout out to big Harrison Butker too, MVP candidate. We got to get a kicker as MVP. We almost saw with Sergio Castillo here actually a couple years ago, but Butker actually destroyed me in fantasy. I think Jeff had him, and he beat me in the playoffs. So nice. Buddy.
The kickers are the most frustrating thing of fantasy sports, period. Like unless you have 2 of the kickers in fantasy football, you will be grasping at straws week over week, trying to decide what they're going to do for you, because you cannot predict it. It's impossible. They will lose you championships. They will lose you games 9 times out of 10. I respect what they do for a living. It's hard to do, but fantasy-wise, I can't stand kickers, period. Great people, though.
Great guys,
Just don't rely on them to win you fantasy championships.
There's a lot of hoopla with the Super Bowl. I mean, we talk about the game, but who cares about the game? I care about celebrity watching. I care about the anthem length, how many times they're going to show Taylor Swift, the halftime show. But one thing we're missing out here on the commercials, Jamie. It is horrible. What are we going to do? I see everyone tweeting about the Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
And it was such a good commercial. It is. Like, that is the best commercial that I saw yesterday. I've only seen 3, so I guess that's not really fair because I don't have a big population to work with. But it's unbearable to watch. And I remember talking to an agent a long time ago. He had a high-profile figure skater. He talked about the lack of commercial opportunities in our country, right? There's just not a lot of ways to do this. And I don't sign the checks. I understand that Bell has to do what they have to do with their sponsors and stuff like that. But what's going on. If we didn't know there was these great commercials going on, and all this stuff's going, you're not as bothered by it. But it's just, we're seeing the exact same commercial over and over and over again, and they're not even that good. And then we know that somebody else is getting something better. So that's the tough part. They'll never have an answer to this because you as CTV has to make their money some way. And it's a big opportunity sponsorship wise and the like that. So we're not going to have that opportunity. So we're just going to sit there staring at our screens, hoping for something interesting this year. And it's not going to happen. We have to look at social media to find what those are out. So we're going to continue to be frustrated by that, but it's awful. I don't care what happens. It's so painful to sit there and watch in between breaks. You may as well just go on 17 commercial bathroom breaks, take up drinking again or something. I don't know, but it's tough to watch.
We get some of them. I saw Billy Idol, but I mean, how many times do we need this Eugene Levy commercial with his son?
Mm-hmm. The CanCon commercial.
How much do we need that? Like, well, at least we didn't get Connor Bedard, that nonsensical commercial where his sister doesn't know that he's in Chicago. Maybe the worst written commercial of all time. That one. I do like the Kachuk one, but But that,
yeah, we see them all the time, Remis. That's the problem. So they're not fresh to us. And when it becomes the 30th time in the broadcast, we're going to show some frustration, especially if we're losing money on the Super Bowl somewhere. We're going to take it out on the commercials and the fact that it's not, it's not entertaining. And the whole purpose and fun of Super Bowl Sunday is, did you see that commercial?
yes.
We don't get that opportunity to say that. We have to search around somehow to find for it later and watch the best of the Super Bowl commercials at the end of the game.
Yeah, we did get the Michael Cera V commercial, which I like.
Yeah.
Great cream. That's always pick it up at Costco, Jamie. Really helps with the dry skin.
It's very dry here in Manitoba, so that's
really dry.
So that works for me. That's I ran down to Shoppers Drug Mart. I got some of that cream, and my gosh, I feel younger. That's why I look so young today, thankfully, because of that commercial that I saw yesterday. So it does work. Commercials do work.
They 100% work. Of course they do. So
yeah, that's the whole purpose. Show it to us a bunch of times. You know what? I do need that stuff.
Yeah. So we're missing out on that. But hey, and as far as parties, Jamie, I used to have, with my friends when I was younger, you'd have huge parties, get together, everyone's making food, and now we're all older. We have kids. Invited one of my friends over with his 2 kids, But after an hour, all the kids are crying. They can't share they can't share the toys. We had to call it. So maybe we all get older. But so we did the poll.
Well, when they're older, I'll tell you this, buddy. When they get older, I did the Super Bowl prop bet yesterday. But I have a 10-year-old and she doesn't take losing for anything. So I just gave her the $20. My son's like, no, she didn't say Kansas City's going to win. I'm like, yes, she did. Yeah. Yes, she did. We're just going to leave this alone. So we're not going to, because if I would have said my oldest kid won it, she would have lost it. And I would way rather deal with my teenage kids than the 10-year-old losing her mind over $20. So
yeah, you have daughters. Do you find your daughters got more into it because of Taylor Swift? Or do they care?
Listen, my 2 older kids don't care at all. They get my middle kid, Ivania, she kind of rolls her eyes when her mom goes off about Taylor Swift and stuff like that, because she's kind of a Swiftie. And then my youngest talks about how the other grade 5 class is a bunch of Swifties, and she's like, ugh. Only because she probably hears us complaining about Taylor Swift all the time. But it's the 2 older kids could care less about sports, which is fascinating, that I do what I do and they just don't care. So the last kid, the last kid is my only hope. She's plays soccer, and I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm when it comes to her, because there's clear favoritism going on, because she actually has actually likes sports. So I have to pretend my academically smart children matter as much as my athletic child. So you wait till that happens too. You have to make decisions.
Fair. Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Yeah. We'll get there. But
yeah.
Talking about the Super Bowl, you are with Jets TV, Jamie, and the Ground Control podcast. So what's going on at Jets practice today? How was a big practice? Gus in a regular jersey?
Yes. Yeah. There was conversation afterwards about the future of David Gustafson, if he's going to go down the Moose or not. Those conversations will be had. Clearly, the move made with Don McTominato was to make space for David Gustafson, who's been on IR for a significant amount of time, but a normal jersey, but an extra forward, right? So decisions have to be made down the road here. But today you have the day off yesterday. It was about a 65, 70-minute practice today, and all the lines still the same from the weekend. Gabriel Velarde, of course, with Sean Monahan and Cole Perfetti on the second line, although Bones went away from that a little bit in an effort to hold on to that 1-goal lead. But the main conversation was about how well they played defensively in the first and third. We all know what happened the second period. It wasn't textbooked. Rick Bowness expressed frustration about the second period, but didn't really get into it a lot. But the Jets seemed to be shooting themselves in the foot quite a bit. But that all being said, they played a lot. They were really good in the first period, a lot better in the third period. So there's some good signs going on here. And I read an article today from Peter King. He said that Andy Reid texted the head coach of the Vegas Raiders after they got pounded by the Raiders, thanking him for the loss because it woke the players up. So maybe this 5-game stretch that the Jets just had, kind of a wake-up call, this is what happens when you get away from the structure that they had. And even in the game itself on Saturday, Look what happened in the first and third when you play within structure. You own the Penguins. You get away from it. You get yourself in trouble, and your goaltender has to bail you out like Connor Hrabchak did on Saturday. So there's a lot of lessons learned in that Penguins game on Saturday. I think we're going to see a more consistent Winnipeg Jet hockey team going forward. But what now has to happen, in my opinion, is you've had Mark Scheifele back for a little bit. He's getting back into the fold of things. That top line was very dynamic on Saturday. You want to see more of that. But the second line's got to get going, and Rick Bowness addressed that today. They have to find some way where Sean Monahan clearly getting used to the system that he's in. You have to get Cole Perfetti going. You got to get Gabriel Velarde going, flat out, period. Whatever that looks like in the top six. But I think that's just a matter of time. But on Saturday, buddy, when Sean Monahan went on that shorthanded breakaway, fakes the slap shot and hits iron, I thought the roof would have came off the building if he would have scored there. Like, that's the addition. I think we're at the point now where in the short time frame that Monahan has been here with the Jets, you see everything what the Jets were hoping for. You're getting that. Sure, the points aren't there. The face-offs, how smart he is. He knows where to go in such a short time in a new system. I think it's just a matter of time for that second line starts producing, and that's only a good thing because you have a great third line. You have a fourth line that a lot of teams would love to have across the league. And Brendan Dillon's coming back soon after this one as well. Full credit to Logan Stanley of how well he's played after being out since December.
Yeah, Logan Stanley grabbing the assist. And how about Nikolai Ehlers? Do you think this is going to be the top line for the foreseeable future? They played so well when Connor was out, Scheifele and Ehlers. It seems like if we said, hey, we're sticking with these two guys as a pair together.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it also ties into they have to get the second line going. So however that looks, Kyle Connor going on the second line, Nikolai Ehlers going on the second line, it's hard to say at this point. But you have a great sample, a great example of when you have two fast players, dynamic players like Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers, and you put a very highly intelligent center between them and Mark Scheifele, this is what happens, right? You have to stick with this trio for the foreseeable future because they keep proving over and over again that they're going to provide you offense unless the second line can't get going because you're going to have to make a decision at that point. But for the time being, I agree with you, Remis. You got to stay with this group. They're so fun to watch. They're dangerous. They cause problems in the offensive end through the neutral zone because of the speed they come at you with. So I just think Rick Bowness has no choice but to stay with them until proven otherwise, right? So, but it's very important that second line gets going. But again, just a little bit earlier, just a matter of time, I think, before that starts to get going here.
And they're playing San Jose on Wednesday, and I'm looking at the standings.
Games.
I'm looking at the standings, Jamie. Go to NHL.com, hit league, sort by points, scroll down to the very they're
way to go down. To see them.
You think who's starting goal? You think they'll still ride with Hrabchak here Wednesday, or any indication if it's a Brossoit game?
Well, I think because you would go a week between starts, I don't think that's viable. I think for Connor Hrabchak, you play Saturday against Pittsburgh, I think it was around 5 days, the longest you want to go with Connor Hrabchak. So I don't think there's any doubt that you go with Connor Hrabchak on Wednesday and then back to him again against the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday on the West Coast. That's just me. I could be proven wrong, but either way, you don't have an issue there either way. But I still think it's too long of a time between starts for Connor Hrabchak to ask him to go up against the best team in the National Hockey League after not starting for a week. So that's just me. It'll likely be Helly on Wednesday.
Yeah, here, let's look at the schedule here coming up.
Woo!
Yeah,
favorable.
Nice lull here. Jamie, you got 2 days off. You got today, tomorrow. Nice 6:30 start Wednesday. Saturday, big 9 p.m., but then the back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, Calgary and Minnesota. So maybe Brossoit gets the second game. The Minnesota, the Minnesota game. That's a week tomorrow.
So I think you're looking at Hrabchak, Brossoit, Hrabchak, just a guess.
You think they put Hrabchak in for that big rivalry game, Feb 20?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So wherever Minnesota is, I just think that's how you go, right? So I've been proven wrong before, but that's just the way I see this shaking out.
Yeah, I've heard, doesn't Hrabchak love the afternoon games? And then they go with the second guy at the second game.
Loves them. But it depends it depends how busy. I still think you'd want Connor Hrabchak in net for that game against Minnesota on home ice, but call me crazy.
Well,
this February is so easy, like schedule-wise, because March is going to be a gauntlet. And this schedule, I feel you have to take advantage of, because you have some pretty good teams and mixed in there, and then some really bad ones. And those are the games you have to take care of, especially with the way Dallas and Colorado keep coming up with wins. And important that you want to stay in the hunt for first place. As I see, look at Jeff Hamilton coming to the corner of my screen here. Guy looks good. He's got his beard nicely done. He's just putting his headphones. Is this like the music on the Oscars, Remis, when I see Jeff Hamilton pop in the corner of the screen that my time is up? Is that what I usually go with?
I mean, we're winding it down. So yeah, Jeff's
I feel like it.
Jeff's coming.
The music's
up.
coming in. The music's coming in. I don't
have music, but I guess it's. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the schedule. They got 2 days off here, 2 days off after the Sharks game, 2 days off after the Minnesota game, and you fast forward to March, and it's something ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a gauntlet.
It gets crazy. It's every second day.
Yeah,
that's wild.
We're not going to have these conversations about Super Bowl commercials. We won't have time, Remis. There just won't be enough time to talk about these things in March.
Well, we can revisit that again in the future, Jamie. But I had to get you on. I know you're a big NFL guy. Sorry about your Dolphins, but it seems like if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
The worst thing, buddy, is like Larry Zonka comes walking on the field, can barely walk, and they're like, from the Super Bowl team 50 years ago, Larry Zonka. Like, see, that's like a complete. And then it's the quarterback that beat the Dolphins in their last Super Bowl appearance in Joe Montana. So it's been so long, buddy. And so all this stuff and all this heat that I have for the Kansas City Chiefs, just pure jealousy, because just you don't ever see an opportunity for Tua and the Dolphins to get the Super Bowl as long as another guy known as Patrick Mahomes is in the way.
Yeah, if you're in the AFC or
you're hooped,
you're done. Like AFC West,
done.
Like, good luck.
Ask Josh Allen. Yeah. Ask Josh Allen how that's going for him.
Yeah, I think a lot of we'll wrap it up, but a lot of comparisons to the good teams that didn't win when Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls, and the great players who didn't win when Michael Jordan was in the NBA as well. I saw a lot of that yesterday, but here
there was the loser Eminem commercial too, right? With Dan Marino, an almost winner.
Oh, so yeah, I think I saw that actually.
Dude, that's a third kick in the balls as a Dolphins fan.
I couldn't believe he was doing those, like owning it too.
Like he sold out, man. Like holy cow.
Owning the fact that he was the best QB to never win a Super Bowl.
Never won it. Never got back.
Well, anyways, Jamie, great talking. We'll do it again sometime soon. Appreciate it.
You bet, buddy. All the best.
Thank you. There is Jamie Thomas on Jamie Thomas TV on, X, formerly known as Twitter. Ground Control Podcast. Check that. We just had Colby Barlow, who's back scoring goals in the OHL. Well, big week in the CFL. CFL free agency kicking off tomorrow. No one I would rather have on talk about that, and I know Jeff's got thoughts on the halftime show as well, and we'll talk some Jets with Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. Stay tuned. We will be coming right back in with Jeff Hamilton.
We are looking forward to next season, and of course, all of our Winnipeg Blue Bomber reports here on Winnipeg Sports Talk are brought to you by Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and now welcoming Bomber fans to Princess Auto Stadium for next season's Winnipeg Blue Bomber year. Of course, a new 10-year deal announced earlier this year. A great local success story of a Winnipeg company getting behind the local team in the way that they are. Of course, Princess Auto, in addition to being great sponsors of all of our sports teams here in the PEG, and of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk, Princess Auto is also the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and visit them in store on either Panet Road or Portage Avenue West at their 2 Winnipeg locations, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Have to give a shout out to the gang at Wallace & Wallace, Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialists since 1946. As the snow melts and we get into spring, you'll see their fences and trucks all over the city. But you might not know they're also the Clopay dealer in Manitoba and have the largest selection of overhead garage doors for your home in town. But right now, as it is cold in the middle of the winter. This is the time that stresses your overhead garage door the most, and the right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your inspection and maintenance service call today. For residential and commercial overhead door sales and service, there's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And hey, fellas, if you're looking into your closet and realize that it might be time to step up your menswear game, might I suggest a quick trip to take care of that down to see the gang at F Apparel at 190 Smith Street, Winnipeg and Manitoba's #1 spot for menswear at great prices. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Great deals for 2024 high school grads. And if you're in a wedding party or getting married this year, make sure you talk to the gang down at F Apparel about a 15% discount when the entire wedding party gets their suits at F Apparel. They're again down at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online and find out more, or make an appointment at that's EPHapparel.com.
There's us. He's away in Mexico. He'll be back. I'm in here in the host chair. Was pretty nervous to start the show, but hey, we're talking about sports. This is fun. Big day. Super Bowl Monday, post Super Bowl Jets, big win. And I'm gonna talk about it with Connor. We're gonna share about the best way to score on an empty net. And hey, I see 430 people in the chat. Shout out to everyone who's in here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're coming up on 3 years. Couldn't do it without all you guys. And if you are enjoying our content, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. It tells YouTube, hey, we were putting out some good stuff, and maybe it'll show it to more people and bring some more viewers to the channel. But big week in the CFL. We had the negotiation period last week where, you couldn't say they're signing. You just had to say expected to sign with. And then the big free agency kicks off tomorrow. The Bombers have made some moves. And Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, Jeff K. Hamilton on X, formerly known as Twitter. Jeff, what's going on? How's your weekend?
My weekend was good, man. I as I was telling you off camera, had a good Sunday yesterday. Always a good Sunday when you can leave with more money in your wallet than you arrived. So my bets were well received, and what a game! I don't have a team. I don't really have any team, even in the NFL. So I didn't have any stake in any side. So I was cheering like many people for a good one, and it delivered, man. Can't complain.
It's amazing. We've been so lucky with some really good Super Bowls over the last 20 years. I think there was a stretch where the game sucked all the time. But I mean, there's every one the Patriots were in was a field goal. There were some other good ones like the Steelers Cardinals one had a crazy finish. So we've been pretty blessed with good Super Bowls, thankfully, because everyone's tuning in. You want to tune in and see some terrible game. But we haven't had you on, Jeff, since the Bombers had the big dual signings last week. You didn't think it was going to get done, or you thought it was very low odds. How did they get Oliveira and Schoen both under contract?
I didn't think that they were going to get them both done because the Bombers didn't think that they were both going to get done. And even my conversations with them afterwards, I got a text message from Kyle Walters saying, I would have probably pegged that at 10% of a chance of happening. And I think that was the feeling, certainly in the hours that led up to the official signing of Brady Oliveira, and then obviously Dalton Schoen came shortly after that. Those two things were done kind of simultaneously. Like they were talking to Dalton Schoen while they were talking with Brady, and it really came down to numbers, right? I mean, both of those players, well deserved raises this year. Both expected to, especially Dalton Schoen, who went from playing the last 2 seasons on a super team friendly deal, close to minimum salary as a rookie, to see his salary jump to $230 and $230,000, and even Brady Oliveira, same price, and he was making about $160 last year, or even less. So it's That's a big jump for two players. And I think while the Bombers wanted both of them, desperately wanted both of them, I don't think that they felt that, the dollars made much sense. And a couple things did happen. Obviously, I think we've heard it a few different times. I've heard it on national television. I've heard it on podcasts. I've written about it. I think it's at a certain point in time as negotiations went on, and you heard it from Brady Oliveira, who was admitted to playing kind of that, that game, if you will, that you ask for a high number and you accept something lower. Well, I don't think the Bombers thought he was going to accept anything lower. And then I think Wade Miller kind of came in, and obviously Brady being a Winnipeg guy and what he brings to the team beyond just his abilities on the field, a lot of that promotion off the field, obviously being, that Andrew Harris type kind of player with that kind of, cachet in the city. So I think, those strings finally got pulled, and they ultimately pulled off the impossible. Now, here's the thing. I think something that, doesn't get talked about all that much. And, it's something teams don't like to do because they don't like to set necessarily a precedent in these things. But if you look at Chad Kelly's contract, he signed obviously a big ticket contract last year. $100,000 of that each year goes to marketing money, and marketing money doesn't count to the cap. So I don't know exactly just how much marketing money are in these two deals, but once those details start to, filter out, I'd be curious to know what, how much of that is marketing money, because, the big issue, as I said, and as every fan out there with hopes of signing both those players feared, was that the Bombers wouldn't be able to fit those salaries under the salary cap. So I think, a combination of certainly wanting these guys back, not wanting to see them on other teams, trying to find the money, it just created this whirlwind of about 10 hours late Monday night, and resulted in pretty two amazing signings Tuesday morning. So it wasn't easy, it wasn't seamless, but at the end of the day, the Bombers have their two biggest weapons on offense outside of Zach Collaros and that offensive line. And I think these guys are ready to show up under new deals, obviously, for 2024.
Yeah, one thing about Dalton Schoen, you noted in your column there at Winnipeg Free Press, no one really wanted to offer him the big money, $300,000. I mean, we saw Kenny Lawler get some huge money from Edmonton. Is there everyone tapped out in terms of salary? Because he's been the best receiver in the league the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look, I think there's a couple reasons to that. If you look at kind of the last few years, we saw Kenny Lawler obviously jet for Edmonton in 2022. Get that big ticket price at $320K. We saw Eugene Lewis get the same thing in Edmonton in 2023 when Kenny Lawler came back to Winnipeg. And, where has Edmonton finished the last 2 seasons? They finished at the bottom of the standings and not making the playoffs in a league where 6 out of 9 teams, get a shot at competing for the Grey Cup. And so I think teams kind of just realize that, you need to be good with your money. I don't know why a Dalton Schoen wouldn't warrant that kind of money, because, you look at Eugene Lewis, you look at Kenny Lawler, the difference between those two and Dalton Schoen is that height, and that, what a lot of GMs and head coaches perceive as that playmaking ability, where if it's, it's not such a 50-50 toss up when you throw it up to 2 players and one's included, like a Eugene Lewis or a Kenny Lawler. It's a little more 50-50 when it's Dalton Schoen, not being as tall as Kenny Lawler and Eugene Lewis. The thing where Dalton Schoen has flexed his muscles in the CFL is his quick, incredible ability to pick up the nuances of the game, including the waggle, where he doesn't need to have a 50-50 situation because he more often than not gets open. And so I don't know why teams don't covet that more or didn't covet that more in during this negotiation window. Now, mind you, Dalton got $230,000 in Winnipeg. He could have got probably upwards of $260,000, $270,000 from somewhere else. He just, and he said he didn't talk figures, but he did talk in his his availability shortly thereafter. Was he for him specifically, the money that he was being offered in other places didn't make up what he was, what he had in Winnipeg already. And that's obviously the culture here, that connection with Zach Collaros, the, factoring a big part of Winnipeg's offense. And so I think that uncertainty of being somewhere else, playing under a different system, under a different offensive, coordinator, I think maybe the risk of not having that success certainly didn't outweigh maybe the $40,000 that Dalton Schoen could have got elsewhere.
Yeah, we know that more marketing opportunities here he noted with Chris Strevler when he signed, and also playoff bonuses as well with the Bombers going to the last 3 straight Grey Cups. I'm losing
Bombers, four straight.
I'm losing track.
Four straight.
We talked about who's coming.
3 straight where they were favorites.
Oh, yes. There it is. We had that break there, so maybe it jogged my memory. We had a couple departures, though, along with the guys who are coming back. And I wanted you rank which one of these departures is going to hurt the Bombers the most. Demario Houston is going to sign with Calgary. Jamarcus Hardrick's going to Saskatchewan. And Jackson Jeffcoat, and it was announced on Friday that he's going to retire. So which one of these is going to hurt the Bombers the most, and how are they going to replace all these guys?
Yeah, you mentioned there's also Ricky Walker, who is also set to go to Calgary, who's maybe not as high profile, if you will, of those guys, but is like 26 or 27 years old and still has a lot of game left in him and did have 5 sacks last year. I think to answer your question, Remo, you really need to ask the question, I think you alluded to this at the end, was how do you replace that role, and who takes over that role? And with that in mind, I'd have to say Jamarcus Hardrick. I mean, Jamarcus Hardrick, I think, will be felt the most because he was that bookend to, obviously to Stanley Bryant. I think it was 6-7 seasons that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had Stanley Bryant protecting the quarterback to the left and Jamarcus Hardrick protecting the quarterback to the right. That was an embarrassment of riches. And these guys were known as like the perennial, top 2, tackles in the league. And they just happened to be in Winnipeg. So to lose that and to lose that to Saskatchewan and then have to replace somebody there right now. I mean, Drew Richmond's a guy that I think got a lot of attention in recent days or weeks here when he announced, what seemed like surprising retirement with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers after spending 3 years in Winnipeg and kind of, battling injuries. He battled injuries through the first 2, but was kind of viewed as the guy next up in that offensive line on that tackle side. The Bombers knew that was a possibility. They knew that Drew Richmond may not pursue football this season, so it didn't come as a complete shock. Is it disappointing? Probably. I mean, it can't not be, but it will be interesting to see where the Bombers go to fit that spot. I don't think there's a lot of I think might be a couple experienced tackles out there. They might go after, or they consider that also has to just, money is very much, a factor in whether or not they can do that. They're certainly not going out and signing, a $200,000 right tackle to replace a guy who they would have paid that much money or would have probably paid a little bit more if they had that to match what the $235 he got in Saskatchewan. So they're not in that situation. So it'll be interesting to see who they can put at that right tackle position. But that being said, Remo, I mean, you talk about the bookends and let's just throw Jackson Jeffcoat kind of in there. He might just be a close second. It's, I think a lot of fans were certainly disappointed, probably even a little bit shocked that he was announcing his retirement at 33 years old. If we know anything about Jackson Jeffcoat, it's that he's a bruising defensive end who, was a terror for quarterbacks, coming off the edge and was particularly good in playoff games. But he was also really well known for his injuries. And if you look at his games played, it doesn't really reflect that. Like even if you look at last season, I think he has 16 of 18 regular season games. And if you're looking just strictly on that number, that doesn't look all that bad. But I think he was dealing with injuries every week, wasn't always available for practice. And, maybe the Blue Bombers looked at a Jackson Jeffcoat and thought, let's maybe get rid of him a year too early or move on from him a year too early than a year too late. And I know fans aren't going to like to hear that. I'm a little surprised that he didn't find a home elsewhere, or didn't get the dollar figure that to him warranted putting his body on the line and his physical health at stake another season. So it's a disappointing end, and it's a bit of a disappointing end with the Bombers too. I mean, if you read Paul Friesen's article, it was a great get for Paul, who talked to Jackson and allowed him to lay it out. And his situation, the Bombers didn't get a hold of him. They waited really, really late, close to this negotiation window, that it didn't make much sense for him to negotiate, or didn't make him certainly feel like he was wanted back. And so I think, that those few days clearly were not good for him. And he wanted more and felt disrespected when, I think with a little bit more attention to detail on the Bombers side, they could be celebrating Jackson Jeffcoat and all the contributions that he's made. I'm still sure they'll do that. I just think it's got a little bit of a gray cloud over it with Jackson Jeffcoat ultimately revealing his feelings and how he felt disrespected on his way out after such a great tenure in Winnipeg.
Yeah, is there anything to read into that? Because it seemed like something similar happened with Andrew Harrison. These are players that gave a lot to the organization, that were huge parts of championship teams. And Like, why not just give a heads up and say, hey, you know what, we're thinking about going in another direction?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you, Remo, and I agree with you 100%. I have no idea why you can't pick the phone up and call a guy who's, whether it was Andrew Harris or Jackson Jeffcoat, and say, look, we really appreciated your time here. We'd love to have you back, but the numbers just don't work out, and just be straight up with them. I mean, you hear it in all leagues. Players just want to know where they stand, right? They want to know where they're at. And even in those times where it might not be good news, or you might not be viewed as highly as you once were, and that's tough to swallow, you always appreciate the honesty that comes with being told where you stand, at any given time. And this, whether it was Andrew Harris or Jackson Jeffcoat this time, I think it was just a situation, and I'm speculating here, but how else do you explain it, where Kyle Walters probably just didn't want to have an awkward conversation with a guy to tell him that he wasn't going to be back, didn't want to be the bearer of bad news. But, sometimes the bearer of no news is just as bad. So I think, I don't know if I would necessarily, call it an issue or a reoccurring issue. I don't know that to be true. We have the Harris example, and we have the Jeffcoat example, but those are two pretty significant players on the roster that have done a lot for this team, and to think that they didn't get the send off that they truly deserved makes you question, maybe how many others have felt the same.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that Jeffcoat played here for 6 years. Harris both leaving with kind of a bad taste in the mouth. Even if you saw them, their time here coming to an end. We did have some other signings. Brandon Alexander, he's back. Shane Gauthier, that was announced, I think, today. He's back as well. One situation that still hasn't been solved is kicking. What's up with Sergio Castillo? Are we going to see him return for another season with the blue and gold?
I do think he'll be back. I tweeted out last week that the Bombers were close with Brandon Alexander, and they were close. And as you mentioned, Remo, they were able to ink him to a deal. And then I also mentioned in that same tweet that there was still work to be done, but I believe that it was getting closer to a Sergio Castillo side. I do think Sergio Castillo ends up in Winnipeg next year. As is the case with every contract negotiation, I can just assume it probably has to do with money and talking out some of the details. And because Sergio Castillo is a reputable kicker, right, in this league, and he wants what he's worth. Every player wants what he's worth, but how much opportunity is there? Anyways, I think that negotiation gets figured out. I think Sergio Castillo comes back to Winnipeg. That's where my betting would be. There are some other guys out there that I think people are interested in knowing about. Look at if you look at the offensive line, Jeff Gray, obviously a Winnipeg native. It doesn't look like he's going to get re-signed. I think Liam Dobson and Tui Eli, the Bombers are going to lean on those two guys to take bigger roles. I don't know what it looks like for Rasheed Bailey in his return to the offense. Obviously, with Dalton Schoen getting that massive pay raise, I don't even know if there's enough money left over to pay the modest salary that Rasheed Bailey took last season. As we was well reported, he took a massive pay cut. So I don't even know if the Bombers have enough money to give him that contract. I'm sure he wants a little bit more on that, and I'm sure he could get a little bit more than what he was making with another team. So we'll see what the future is with him. You never know. Maybe the Bombers bring him back. Rasheed Bailey is certainly a guy that does kind of the thankless work in the trenches. Is a big obviously has skill, but is a big part of that run game and blocking, much like Drew Wolodarski's leaned on to do. So there's him, and then there's another name that's I'm often asked about, whether it's Winston Rose. So I think when we saw him not make the Grey Cup roster, the West Final, the playoff roster, I guess here, I think that was the writing on the wall that he's not coming back. I think they're happy with Jamal Parker taking that next step, and then there's another guy named Tyreek McGee. He's a guy he's 26 years old. He was a guy the Bombers were high on in training camp last year, but he got injured. I think he came back to Winnipeg, spent some time with the Bombers throughout the year. I know he probably, if I had to describe it, has the inside track for one of those corner spots. And then of course Janarian Grant in the return game. I don't know what the situation with Janarian Grant is at this point. I think the Bombers are interested in having him back. I don't know, where his head's at. And when I say that, I just don't know. I don't think that he wants to go elsewhere. But I do think that that one wouldn't take a lot of work, once the talks get going. So, I'm not as confident for sure as a Janarian Grant coming back as I am for Sergio Castillo, but I do think the door is still open for there, and potentially Janarian Grant could be back as the returner for the Bombers.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that, how ineffective their return game was without him. That would, I think, be a huge loss for the Bombers. I have to ask you about your conversation with the quarterback, Zach Collaros. How is he feeling about the O-line? But more importantly, you did have some quotes about his experience, and this is what we're all want to hear about in his box in the suite with Taylor Swift and Jason Kelsey. So any insight you want to add on that?
So, yeah, sure. So I did talk to him about it. I got him on the phone last week, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm calling for football, but I need to pick your brain about what you going back and forth on camera. You created quite the stir, online, and when people saw you and your name was being tossed out there. I'll first address Zach's feeling about the team. Obviously, he's really happy with getting guys like Dalton Schoen back. One of his favorite targets. Certainly having Brady Oliveira back is going to help the offense, and so he's incredibly happy about that. I do know that Zach's disappointed about the Jamarcus Hardrick losing him. He felt that one pretty badly, and why wouldn't he? I mean, that's his right side there. So, I think I moving on to the Taylor Swift stuff. So I did ask him about it. It's pretty funny too, because you kind of need to know Zach, and just kind of how unassuming he is. Like he's a really down to earth guy that doesn't pay a lot of attention to like the latest gossips. He's just a very, I don't want to say quiet, or reserved, but he is a bit of both of those things. He kind of just sticks to his family, and and he's very, he's just a really humble guy. So talking to him, like he didn't even know how famous Taylor Swift was until Travis started dating her. Like he knew who Taylor Swift was, but he didn't know like the Swift mania across being one of the most recognizable, if not the most recognizable artists right now. And just, we all know that he's really, really close friends with the Kelceys. So he, Travis wanted him to be at the game. He wanted to see Travis. That's all really wanted to do, is to see either Travis before or after the game. And he's incredibly good friends with Jason Kelsey. So they went together, and they didn't even really know that they were going to get into that box. They were going to play the old game, as he referred to it as, where they get them in the nosebleeds. And if they got to sit outside, they were more than happy to do that. But maybe they could work something out, if a box had an open seat or an availability or whatever. And then he thought he was going to a different box that was being hosted by, I believe, his former agent and Travis's current agent. And then he ended up at the one with Taylor Swift in it. And he said that, he didn't really realize it until there was about 7 or 8 bodyguards that showed up. And, him and Jason met Taylor right away. She introduced herself. He said she was super nice, super kind, spent a lot of the game, literally moving and bending and adjusting for the number of photos that were requested of her. But what I did find funny was Zach's not just like good friends with the Kelceys. He's like best friends with the Kelceys. Like he talks to them on group chats like every day. Like I asked him if he listens to their podcast, and he goes, no, like I hear that kind of stuff like every single day. It almost sounds like, deja vu to him in some ways. So, I think it's funny that because he's so close friends with Jason, and he was so marveled at how the Bills fans just adored him and knew who he was. Like he didn't even really know that Jason Kelsey was like as popular as he is, had no idea he was named whatever People's sexiest man alive or something like that this past year or whatever. Was none the wiser of that. But he did mention that, when Kelsey came, or Jason came back, and didn't know if he rubbed the Bills fans the wrong way because he's just got a massively big heart. He didn't, when in reality the Bills fans were adoring him. I think Zach was quick to say, I think you made those guys lives in that moment, and then encouraged him to keep his shirt off as he was debating on putting his tarp back on. So that's about as much as the inside information I have from Zach. But I think he had a blast, and certainly didn't understand all the hoopla that was created out of it, and didn't want to be the center of attention, obviously.
Yeah, we all loved it. I mean, the CFL's tweeting out the picture of him in the suite. I was on the broadcast. It was awesome. Maybe you can put a word in, tell Zach to get Jason to come and experience a Bomber sellout.
Dude, so I sent them a message saying, if you guys don't get Jason Kelce to a game next year, what a massively missed opportunity that is. And from what I understand, there is and damn right there should be, there's an open invite for Jason Kelce to attend any Bomber game that he sees fit. And how incredible would it be to have, him in Winnipeg, in a suite doing whatever, maybe not the exact same thing he was doing, in Buffalo, but still representing. And I think the odds go way up by the fact that, not just that he's such close friends with Zach, but also because he's now retired and doesn't have to deal with the grind of an off season and getting ready for another NFL season.
Yeah. I mean, if they're as close as you say, and they have this new platform that they seem to be going with, I saw people on Twitter joking like he needs to do a diners, drive-ins, and dives style travel show where he experiences football culture. You did the Bills, and maybe you filmed it for some movie. Hey, here's me with my boy Zach Claris. And
I have a feeling the opportunities for him will not be dried up after he leaves the NFL.
No. So that was, hey, that is the stuff, Jeff, that I wanted to hear from you. I see people in the chat saying this is awesome. We need to get the Swifties in here.
Yeah, I was just picturing like Jason Kelce at the Rum Hut or something, just like, I don't know, it'd be next level. It'd be a legendary moment for the city for sure. Maybe that's, I don't know what that says about us, but I do know it would bring a lot of attention for sure.
For sure. And, move off actually, here, one more question about free. Are there any teams that have really improved or gotten worse in free agency? Like when you look at whatever the odds are going to be for the Grey Cup, and the Bombers still have to be, I think they're still the favorite, right? How is it shaken out here as we approach the real free agency tomorrow?
Well, I will preface this by saying winning free agency never or rarely, results in winning the Grey Cup. We've seen that lots over the years, particularly, the Ottawa Red Blacks. 2 years ago, Lapo's first year, it was like one of the, or second year or whatever, one of those years, it was like they bought a new team and it was just, I think they were being heavily celebrated, and, not to pump my own tires, but I said both those years, I just didn't think that Ottawa was going to make the playoffs in either of those seasons. And sure enough, they didn't. And I bring that up not to add salt to the wound of Paul LaPolice's tenure in Ottawa, but to say that I wrote last week that I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders are in a similar situation. I think they went out and, signed a lot of big names. Obviously, Jamarcus Hardrick, Thurman, Jameer Thurman is another guy they signed. They went out and AJ Ouellette, they signed 2 running back out of Toronto, another, a great back that certainly the Bombers would have probably were eyeing if Brady didn't work out. Just given, his style of play is very similar to Brady Oliveira's, just that bruising style. I don't know. I just don't really see that being enough for them. And just with Corey Mace, while the hiring of Corey Mace has been celebrated and rightfully so, I think he's going to bring in and establish, a much needed, culture reality check in Saskatchewan. I just think it's not going to happen in year one. And I liken that to, when head coach Mike O'Shea took over in Winnipeg. Obviously, it took him 3 seasons to really have a winning year. He was 12-24 through his first 2 years. So I'm kind of thinking that Regina or Saskatchewan will be the same way, and I'm not buying into some of those off-season moves that they've made. And another team, Toronto. I mean, if you look at Toronto, the thing about Toronto is they have such an incredible eye for identifying talent. John Murphy, a guy who had a ton of bad press against him years ago when he got in those altercations after the East final, like years and years ago, 2019. I think this was pre-COVID. It would have been, because it was like with fans and stuff, and he got kind of blackballed from the CFL, and he's quietly made his way back there and has been, for all intents and purposes, is the GM. Like, he's the one that's finding the talent. His staff is finding the talent. Pinball Clemens is the face, but it's that stuff that's going on behind the scenes that, to my point, is Toronto's really good at finding that talent. And then like we've seen in this last few weeks, this max exodus of players So I think Toronto, I'm really curious. I don't think they're going to be in tough per se. I do think Ryan Dinwiddie's a good coach. And like I said, I think they evaluate talent well, but to see some of the names, some of the big names walk out that door, a Darius Pickett, AJ Ouellette, Hendricks, like the names go on and on and on, key contributors on both sides of the ball. I just think they're going to be in tough. I'm curious on what they're going to do in when free agency opens on Tuesday, if they add any of those names that are still lingering around. But I do know that they're good talent evaluators, but I do think those talent evaluators are going to be tested pretty hard this year.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow, and see, with the NFL ending, we're close to pitchers and catchers and reporting, and close to CFL kicking off. But just we'll wrap up this discussion, Jeff, with the Jets back on the wagon, big win on Saturday. What do you make of the finally breaking this losing streak and moving Nikolai Ehlers there to the top line with Scheifele and Connor?
Yeah, I think that was the move that fans were hoping for, were screaming for. I think it's interesting that they haven't, or I don't know if they will, but reunited that line when Kyle Connor was out, right? Having Velarde on that line. But, if you saw some of the way that Rick Bowness treated Velarde in the last couple of games in his ice time, maybe he hasn't warranted that promotion. I think it was obviously a step in the right direction. The Jets were bleeding. They had lost games going into the break. They had started to lose games coming out of it. This is the time of the season where things ramp up. Teams are jockeying for position in the playoffs. They just seem to matter more, even though the points are the same amount each game. It's just the intensity ramps up. So the Jets had to stop the bleeding. I think there were certainly moments in there where some of those old habits seem to creep into their game, where they didn't look as structurally sound as we've seen them in previous months. And, if it wasn't for Connor Hrabchak and bailing the Jets out in different times in the game, that result could have been much different. That second period, I think that was pretty much, they survived that period. So again, it's things are only going to get tougher. It was obviously a good thing for the Jets to stop it. Now it's about, finding that magic, trying to find that chemistry, trying to get back into being, doing and having that confidence that you had for much of the year. And they know they have it. They just need to figure out, find it, be more consistent with it. And I think that's to come. Obviously, I think a big problem, and you were talking about this with Jamie before, is that second line and trying to find an answer to that second line. Sean Monahan, I do think, is a great pickup for the Winnipeg Jets. I think he does bring, that structure, that sound structure, that high hockey IQ. It's going to take him some time to adjust to that second line. But I think what needs to happen on this team is that second line needs to get to a place with Rick Bowness, whether it's trust factor, whatever you want to refer to it as, that needs to get stronger within Rick Bowness, so that the third line isn't eclipsing the second line in ice time. The reason why the third line, you can say that the third line, that's the team's checking line. That's the team that, on nights where they go up against a dominant number one line, they like to have that third line out there. Well, the Jets would like to have that second line battling the other team's, top or second line too. They just haven't proven that they can do it. I think they want to, Rick Bowness wants to get some of those minutes to Cole Perfetti and guys on that second line. I just don't think that they're warranting it right now. And that's got to be the biggest, it's not all on them. Obviously, the Jets have had a tough time on special teams and scoring goals, and 5-on-5 is creeping. Those inconsistencies in 5-on-5 are creeping in. But I do think that it starts with just getting some more jam chemistry on that second line. If they can get that done, this is a pretty dangerous team, and I don't see why they can't bounce back.
Yeah, and we've seen the Jets struggle to score lately. The power play been a problem all season. We've talked so much, especially when you're on. But, bringing in a defenseman, you think they look to bring in some kind of forward who can help with scoring, or is this just like a bit of a slump? Because they were pretty up there in goals when they were playing so well back in December, January during that winning streak.
Yeah, even if they were scoring at a better clip than they are right now, I still think the Winnipeg Jets would be going out there and signing players. I still think there's certainly going to be an effort. I mean, they've dealt with injuries over these last 6 weeks, 2 months. They've dealt with injuries all year, but they've dealt with it a few at a time, and they saw their play dip. Their injuries are going to happen in the playoffs. You need to have depth in place to fill in those holes. So we start you start talking about what the roster is going to look like. You want to go back to the 2018, that run to the Western Final. I mean, that had a third line with Brian Little as its center. Like, that's how deep you have to be, to get through those rounds. And so while I think, some of the depth, if you will, with this team has been celebrated throughout the first half of the season, we saw guys like Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, step up in, big moments. We've seen Morgan Barron play well. We've seen, guys on that fourth line take their turns to, be in the spotlight, if you will. Toninato is another guy who played well for a few weeks. And, you just need that consistency up and down the lineup. And for that reason, I think you need to bring experienced players in. You need to bring in guys that are going to provide that depth. I do think that the Jets are still very much looking for, a top 9 forward. I'm certain that they're still looking to add to their blue line. Again, just bringing in more experienced guys that that they can fill in, whether get into a starting role or be that depth, so that when they do hit the playoffs, they have the bodies, they have that ability. Because we've seen this team, if they go through a key injury, some of those dominoes continue to fall, and they have the risk of falling apart. So the more players you have, the better players you have. I mean, it's obvious, but what's interesting is I think with the way the Jets were playing, I don't know what effect them winning one in their last 6 games is going to have on the players wanting to come to Winnipeg. I looked at some articles that have come out in recent weeks. They've talked about the top 5, favorites to win the Stanley Cup this year, and the Winnipeg Jets are not on a ton of those lists right now. And it's probably obviously due to some of their play in recent weeks. So I do think that the Jets are still looking. I do think they'll still add before the deadline. I think they have to add before the deadline if they want to have a serious run come the spring.
Huge win streak, but they haven't looked like the top team in the league like they were at the start of January for a bit now. So we'll have to see how they rebound going forward. You hope the goal scorer comes back. The power play they need to get figured out if they want to go anywhere, and it just hasn't happened this year. But Jeff, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have you on talking CFL. We'll see what news we have next week, and we're counting down to the trade deadline, less than a month away. So appreciate you coming on as always. Love hearing your takes on the CFL and the Jets. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thanks, Remo. You're doing a heck of a job, man. It's us heads out there for beach and sun far too often, and you continue to bring it. You continue to bring it each time. So thanks for having me on. Shout out to the viewers. You guys know you make the show, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, there he is. Thanks again, Jeff K. Hamilton on X, formerly known as Twitter. Appreciate him as always coming on the show. And yes, Hustler is away. I think this is like we mentioned he goes away all the time. I think this is like the first time for an extended period during the hockey season. Usually it's in the summer when there's nothing much going on in terms of news. So we're here, big Super Monday with the Super Bowl recap, and the Jets win, and they're practicing ahead of Wednesday's big Valentine's Day showdown with the San Jose Sharks. And we'll hear some comments from Rick Bowness and talk more with Connor Hrabchak. I teased it all day. The best way to score an empty net goal. That discussion's coming, and I'll hear Connor's thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show, which I didn't even get to share mine. But here's Hustler, and I'll be right back in a sec.
We have to give a big cheers from Winnipeg Sports Talk to our friends at Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite local beer company, featuring their flagship 1919 and their newest generic lager, my personal favorite, a 4-5 domestic style beer brewed locally, fresh and crisp to the taste. And listen, generic right now, not only can you find it along with 1919 on your next trip to Canada Life Center, up in Craft Beer Corner in section 310 in the upper bowl, or 126 in the lower bowl, you'll also find it at your local beer store in Manitoba Liquor Marts at a great low price of $19.99 for an 8-pack of Tall Boys. If you haven't tried generic lager yet, try local. I'm sure you will enjoy it, and maybe the best place to check it out, along with all of the Little Brown Jug offerings, is down at their brewery and tap room on William Avenue. You can also find out more on Little Brown Jug, ordering and local delivery options, along with their great merchandise, online at littlebrownjug.ca. Every sports fan in Winnipeg pretty much knows that if you're in the market for some new Jets merch or Bomber gear, or your favorite team from another league, there's only one place you need to go, and that, of course, is the Royal Sports Superstore at 750 Pembina Highway. 40,000 square feet of the biggest inventory you'll find anywhere, featuring all the home teams and the top teams from all of your favorite leagues and whatnot around the world. But it's not just great fan merchandise at Royal Sports. Take advantage of winter, or what's left of it, with their incredible hockey section, skates, both for high-end players as well as recreational skaters, not to mention snowboards, boots, bindings, and all the cool stuff on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side. You've got to see it to believe it for yourself. Head on down to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway, and make sure to follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Pembina. And hey, big shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. If you're thinking about gathering with your friends for the big game, there's nowhere better to do it than your local BP. You know you'll have the game on the massive screens in Boston Pizza. The sound from the commentators up on the sound system. And most importantly, and most popular, win or lose, you'll be enjoying ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and great Boston Pizza hospitality. And heck, 7 days a week, if you can't make it out to your local BP, you can always order online and get it hot and fast to your door by ordering at bostonpizza.com.
Yeah, there's Hess. He'll be back. You know, he's out celebrating the Chiefs win. Check him out on Twitter/X at Hustlerama. Well, time to bring back Connor Hrabchak. He's been busy getting some clips from today's Jets practice. Connor, how you going? I know it's been a tough one for you with the 49ers losing. Check out today's Jets Weekly. Connor recorded it before the Super Bowl. It was like, yeah, I'm wearing a 49ers shirt. Hopefully this doesn't age poorly. Yeah. And then I was going to take it out, Connor, but then I just started laughing, really. No offense, not laughing at you, just laughing at the idea of you being like, yeah, I hope this doesn't age poorly. And it was a close game. They lost in overtime. Like, what more can you want, right?
You could see it. You could see it in my eyes in the Jets Weekly how excited I was for the Super Bowl, and I'm like, hopefully this doesn't age poorly. And then you watch it this morning, and I'm like, wow, I used to be so happy back then. I had so much optimism.
I'm like, look at this guy. He's so excited to watch this Super Bowl, and it was the most agonizing final quarter, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but we did during that conversation with Jeff. We did have some Jets news. Here to share the latest from Winnipeg Jets PR.
So yeah, Dominic Toninato clears waivers. We brought that up at the start of the program. He's now on the Manitoba Moose. David Gustafson is the one being activated off of IR, but they're actually going to loan him to the Manitoba Moose on a conditioning stint. So he'll still count against the Jets salary cap, but he gets 2 weeks down in the AHL to get his legs back, his hands back. And the Moose, they've kind of struggled this year, but they've turned it around as of late. They've won a few games on the road. So an injection of talent for sure, getting Gustafson and Toninato at the same time. Gustafson at least for the next 2 weeks, but I don't hate it. Go get your legs right, get your hands right, and come back up when he's fully healthy and up to speed.
Yeah, the Jets have utilized this conditioning stint quite a bit this year, and I don't know if that's really like a thing that you've seen in hockey. Hockey lately, it's very common in baseball. Some guys do AAA on conditioning, but the Jets loaning guys to the Moose, Rielly. Well, actually, he's got a two-way deal, but they've done it with some other players. This year was Rasmus Kupari, who came back from injury, and Daniel Fink, play-by-play voice of the Moose, tweeting out, they got Toninato, Gus is now loaned, Axel's been there, they got Rielly, 5-1-1 in their last 7.
There you go.
The Moose. So it helps when you get some quality players like that, but the Jets did speak to the media today, and here's Rick Bonus on putting Toninato on waivers and Ville Heinola's AHL play.
Well, we have to make a spot there.
Yeah. I assume he's just going to be an extra. Is he possibly going to the Moose?
That'll be discussed at some point.
What kind of reports have you been getting from Mark Morrison on how Billy's been playing since his ankle?
First of all, listen, that was a very serious injury that kid had. He's missed 40 games. Is he back to where he was in training camp? No, he's not. And nor are we going to rush him. It would not be fair to the kid to bring him back up here. As much as we'd all love to see him, it would not be fair to the kid to bring him up until he's back to where he was in training camp in terms of skating. So it's a simple thing, I'll bring him up, give him a up. No, it's not. It's not fair to him. When he's back to skating and feeling the way he did, what we saw in training camp, then that'll be a discussion we'll have at that point. But to this point, all we're hearing is that no, he is not skating like he did in September.
And what's the biggest challenge?
Yeah, there's Rick Bowness. I love that nickname, the kid, referring to Ville Heinola, who had that broken ankle in training camp, trying to get back to speed there with the Manitoba Moose. And as we move on, Rick Bowness talked about, they just ended this losing streak, talked about the lessons they learned during the 5-game losing skid.
Yeah, and it was just stay with our game. Stay regardless who we play, where we play. Just play our game regardless of the score. Like you've got to we know what we look like when we're successful. And now the difference from this year and last year, we know the comparisons are to this year. They're not the way they used to play. So it's easier to fall back and get back on track. The 5 games, the biggest issue we had clearly was we weren't scoring any goals. It comes down to that now. It may simplify it in your minds, but okay, you go into Boston, you're 2 bad periods, we're down 2-1. We dominated the 3rd period. We didn't score, so we could have won that game. So as long as you're giving yourselves a good fighting chance to win a game, then it goes back to just making sure you're playing the right way, our way. And there's always harsh reminders during the course of the season to get back on track. And if you look at our last game, the harsh reminders get back on track after that bad 2nd period, and we did.
Yeah, scoring the issue. I don't know if they solved it. They scored 2 goals. It was enough to win on Saturday versus Pittsburgh. I'm sure they're going to be expected to score more against Wednesday on San Jose, but we've seen crazy stuff with the San Jose goalies, James Reimer last year and Mackenzie Blackwood putting up top performances against the Winnipeg Jets, but San Jose will be without Tomas Hertl. He's having a surgical procedure on his knee. And last one. We talked about the top line chemistry with Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor. Rick Bowness expanded on that today.
The guys on there.
Well, he and the KC, it's a speed. They both play the game at a very high tempo. Mark's smart enough to read off of them. So, yeah.
But even with Gabe, too, right?
With Gabe. With Gabe, again, was with Mark. Right, so they're our smartest players. They're our top offensive players, and when you put your top offensive players, you're hoping that they're going to create. Yeah, we'd like to get the second line going. There's no question, but we have to give Mark and Sean a little more time. But we'll work it out.
There he is, head coach Rick Bowness from today's practice. Shout out to the Jets for putting that video out there, and Connor putting those clips together. But we've been winding down the show. I've been dying to give the hot takes. Okay, and over the weekend, we all saw Senators, Leafs, very heated rivalry, heated game, empty net goal. Rielly Greig goes in on a breakaway, winds up with a huge clapper into the back of the net. Morgan Rielly doesn't like it, goes up, cross-checks Rielly Greig in the head. All right, Connor, who's wrong on this one? Who's wrong?
Morgan Rielly for sure. Like I get it. Rielly Greig, he winds up for a slap shot, but fight him fair and square. Like drop the gloves, give him a few shoves. Don't cross-check him in the side of the head. That's my take. I think that's like the pretty obvious one. In terms of the slap shot, if only the Leafs had a guy, I don't know, say like a Ryan Reeves, maybe people wouldn't be attempting things like this against them. But I guess they'll just be forever searching for that kind of player. So unfortunately for them, teams will take slap shots into empty nets, and they'll lose their top defenseman for a handful of games because you can't cross-check a guy on the side of the head. So
have you ever in a game put a slapper on a breakaway and empty net? You ever do that?
In my beer league games, no.
It's the same. We all know it's the same, so it's fair to make the comparison.
I do now know, though, if I do, I better keep my head up for someone to come and cross check me in the side of the head, right? Because that's just the most disrespectful thing you can do.
All right, I'm good. I've thought about this on the weekend.
Yeah, what's your take?
I've thought about it a lot, and I'll say this. So let's just reiterate what happened. Rielly Greig scored a goal on an empty net by taking a slap shot, and in response, Morgan Rielly cross-checked him in the head. That's literally saying that feels stupid. It feels really dumb. Everyone's talking about it. The panel seems to be siding with Morgan Rielly on Sportsnet, which is crazy.
Surprise.
And how I should feel should be obvious. What side? Are you going to be on the side of the guy who scored the puck on the empty net or the guy who cross-checked the other player in the head? And I'm going to be honest, everything I've said in the past thinks that I should love Rielly Greig winding up to take a slapper. I've made fun of the code. I've been out in favor of baseball players celebrating home runs. I've made fun of Brian McCann blocking the base path to home plate. I laughed when the New Orleans Saints stuck it to the Falcons this season and scored a TD out of victory formation in a 48-17 win. I like when NFL players score a touchdown and flip into the end zone. I should love Rielly Greig doing this. I should think it's funny, but I can't help it. This is how I feel. I think it's juvenile. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's the equivalent of giving your opponent the middle finger. He's an agitator. He's doing his job. It's not how I would personally conduct myself on the ice, but there are players in the league like this, and if you want to do that, that's fine. It's certainly within the rules. I mean, we're talking about scoring a goal into an empty net. It really shouldn't matter. I mean, it's whatever. But for Morgan Rielly, the NHL, they're cracking down on hits to the head. They're trying to limit concussions. We've seen suspensions this week. Brendan Dillon, he got 3 games. Zadorov, 3 games. I'm okay with those guys getting suspended. We don't want to see players get injured, and I can totally see Morgan Rielly being mad. I thought it was pretty. I think it's pretty disrespectful, even though that sentence is really dumb. Saying that. But going up to a guy and cross-checking him in the head, you can't do that. That's a big no-no. And if you wanted to respond with a little face wash or going up to him and trash talking him and calling him out after, I'm fine with that. But yeah, you can't cross-check a guy in the head. So. I don't know. I feel I can't, Connor. I can't help it that I'm not a fan of this, but I think the times are changing. Obviously, the way you scored empty net goal is irrelevant, and obviously being offended sounds silly, but it just seemed like such a big F you. And maybe you should love that. Maybe you should love that. I don't know. That's just not what I would do.
I do love it. Okay, fair enough. I do love it from Rielly Greig. Like. Another thing I will say before I get into that is he does need to expect like a little bit of something, not a cross check to the head, obviously, like that is ridiculous. But he should definitely expect when he does something like that, Morgan Rielly to come over, like maybe drop the gloves or like you said, give him a face wash. Should he be expecting a cross check to the side of the head? No. But at the same time, I love the slap shot into the empty net. It's like, this is hockey. Like, don't lose. Don't give up an empty net goal then if you don't want to see me wind up a slap shot in the crease to end the game. Like I love it. I know it's like an emotional moment. Emotions are running high. Battle of Ontario. But again, he's got to expect something after that, not what happened, because obviously like Rielly's going to get suspended for that. I'm not defending the action. I'm just saying I love the slap shot. I love it personally.
I actually hope that maybe it opens the door now and we see some more trick shots on empty net. Someone go do a lacrosse move. That would be great. I
hope next time someone has an empty net against the Leafs, they just go up to the crease and just slowly let the puck in and then see. Well, is that okay?
Maybe
is a slap shot okay? Is slowly trickling it into the net? Is that okay? I don't know.
I see a comment from BA.
What does the code say?
Everyone's laughing. The code means people are babies. BA Split says, I loved it. It was entertainment. I kind of agree.
Yeah.
I'm loving all of it.
Yeah.
I think it is entertaining. We're here talking about it. It's actually a really, when you think about it, it is really dumb discussion. Be like, well, he shot the puck in the empty net the wrong way. I'm gonna cross-check him in the head. Yeah. Like, seems crazy, but at the same time, like I get it. I think there is a way to conduct yourself and etiquette, but I think we're seeing that certainly smashed in other sports. So, but the hearing, and for the record, I have Morgan Rielly in one of my fantasy leagues, so I hope he gets less games. But they're doing an in-person hearing on this one on a play where Ridley Greig, he wasn't even injured. He was back at practice today, and I'm gonna be honest, like just going by what player safety has done in the past seems out of line. We saw Jacob Trouba swing a stick like a baseball bat at a player. He got a $5,000 fine. Ryan Hartman got a $5,000 fine for intentionally slashing Cole Perfetti in the face, cutting him, and giving him stitches. I shared my thoughts on that on this program, and we should be thanking Ryan Hartman for his precision with the stick because it could have been so much worse. And look, because it's an in-person, they can give him more than 5 games because it's an in-person hearing. But I'm going to be honest, like I think we've said this for a while. If he gets more than 5 games, I don't know how I already don't know how you can take anything this Department of Player Safety they do seriously. Like, let's come up with some guidelines. Like, how are these guys coming up with these suspensions? Is George Peros just thinking off the top of his head? Do they have some criteria? Because I'm seeing so many videos on social media with similar plays getting 1 game or 0 games. So I'm curious what it ends up as. I mean, they seem to go by the result rather than the action. They have punished cross-checks to the head, but I think it should be 1 or 2 games, or I wouldn't shock me if it was a $5,000 fine here. So I don't know what you're feeling about the games. About the games, but I think player safety. Way. I think they're a joke, and you don't know what it's going to be. So I'm not even going to speculate.
I can agree with you on that. I there's no way he goes 0 games and it's just a fine. I think that has to go punished. You brought up the Zadorov play, and I think you brought up the point of them also suspending or like taking into account the result.
Yeah.
The Zadorov play, he hits Lucas Raymond in the head, like open ice, shoulder to head, like exactly like the Brendan Dillon play. Like pretty close. Like if you go back and watch it, it's pretty similar. Guy steps up at the blue line, hits him in the head, doesn't get much like body contact. And he gets 2 games. Brendan Dillon got 3. But the Zadorov play, Lucas Raymond was able to return to the game like 10 minutes later. So Nola Chari obviously suffered a concussion and he's still out for the Penguins. So I think, and Zadorov has a suspension history. So it's there's all these things at play, and it just feels like they're just throwing darts at a dartboard and going, okay, well, this one landed on 2 games, so screw it. I know we just handed out a 3-game suspension for a guy with no history, but let's give this guy 2 games because it was the same action, but he didn't hit him in the head as hard. Like I don't know what their reasoning is. And this Morgan Rielly play, I think it's blatant cross check to the head. I don't think that can go, like what's worse, the Brendan Dillon play or the Morgan Rielly play?
Yeah, the Brendan Dillon play, I'll say at least it was a part of a course of play. The Morgan Rielly is after, but I mean, Greig's fine. Cole Perfetti was fine after he got slashed in the face. So. And I thought using your stick as a weapon, you couldn't do. So who knows? And a lot of people saying in chat, bring up Dale Hunter on Pierre Turgeon. And I enjoyed this from Eric Macramella. He's been a legal analyst on TSN, Forbes. He's done a lot of radio hits, Edmonton, Ottawa. I used to have him on as well. Someone asked him, is the Dale Hunter play used as precedence for this kind of incident? And he responds, a lawyer responding, saying, I don't know what serves as precedent. Lack of consistency. So we have no idea what they're going to do.
No idea.
Come up with some criteria, come up with some consistency. Like, what are these guys doing? Disappointing. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm curious to see. And everyone, because it's the Leafs and because it's a big play, holding their breath. And I mean, he's the Leafs' best defenseman. They're pretty screwed without him. They're going with Jake McCabe Rock and Power Play 1. So if you're looking for someone for fantasy to pick up,
there you go.
Maybe Jake McCabe is your guy. Although I went with Darren Radish on Tampa, who's filling in for Sergachev, who got injured before. But that was weigh in the chat, weigh in the comments. What are you feeling about this Morgan Rielly play? How many games? And who's wrong? Because we all know Rielly Greig is the wrong one for shooting the puck in the empty net the wrong way. Yes. I'm getting so fired up, I pulled out my headphones.
Yeah, the slap shot is unacceptable. Next time he needs to slowly skate up to the edge of the goal line and slowly tap the puck in like he's making a putt.
Should have done
That's what he has to do. And then maybe the cross check will just be to like his chest and not the head, you know? Like these are the code, you know, you take these things into account, Remis. You gotta, you don't have your updated code handbook, or what were you saying months ago? You were saying you got your code is in the mail.
Oh, I had the code. You know, I made fun of,
yeah.
You know, I should be loving this Rielly Greig thing. I should be thinking he's so funny and so awesome. I make fun of the code all the time, but I don't know. I thought it was, I mean, I guess it's like great we're talking about it, but like I wouldn't do that. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe because scoring on an empty net, like there's no goal there. But I mean, you're running into an end zone. Guys do flips all the time. So I think about like, what's the difference? Like we're arguing about the stupidest thing here, and they just got so mad. Like the reaction, I can understand getting mad, but I think it's clear cross-checking guys in the head is a no-no. So we'll see what happens. That'll be fun this week when the decision comes out. The hearing is tomorrow in person, so. You know, maybe it'll be, more game, a lot of games, but we'll wait and see. The Leafs are going to be screwed at defense without it. We're going to get into the Coolbet lines before we wrap up, but do want to give a reminder. We got the Winnipeg Sports Talk newsletter, winnipegsportstalk.com. Scroll down to the bottom. We send out a weekly thing every week detailing the top, stories or the top segments that you may have missed. So sign up for that. Also, detailing contests. We're going to have AEW tickets to give away, but we're also giving away tickets to the Manitoba Moose. winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Enter to win some Manitoba Moose tickets. They're playing Saturday afternoon here and Monday afternoon, but I know we have tickets for Saturday's game up for grabs on our website, and we will have more for the games later on in the month. There as well. So make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter and checking our website and staying in touch with all of our other social medias as well. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Sports Talk, WPG, same name across all the platforms. So easy to remember. And a couple games tonight, Connor. A couple games on the list. Let's bring it up. Here we go. Kraken, Devils, Flames, Rangers, Coyotes, Flyers, Wild, and Vegas Golden Knights. 4 games. Any leans on any of these? We got the Kraken, slight underdogs to the Devils. They got Jack Hughes back. Rangers favored over the Flames. Flyers favored over Arizona. And the Golden Knights favored over Minnesota. You got to pick for today, or a game that you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah. It's interesting because Friday we did the Coolbet lines and there was a lot of big favorites. And this is not, I mean, you see the lines, they're a lot closer there. I do like the Devils with Jack Hughes back, like you said. Vegas, they just came off that win against Edmonton. The Wilds, they beat the Penguins on Friday night. Mm-hmm. But I do like Vegas as well. They're good at home. I mean, we know it's Vegas. William Karlsson's back in the lineup for them too, so I don't mind that. But yeah, I lost a lot of money on the 49ers, so maybe I'll stay out of the NHL tonight.
Connor's taking a night off. Heard it here. I had the 49ers win. I had some McCaffrey props, so I was okay. But all their other players,
there you go. Yeah,
if you're betting overs, you did not do well. I'll give one. I like, if you want to pick a goal scorer in this game, Vegas, Minnesota, Ivan Barbashev, maybe a lower odds, plus 280, or Paul Cotter plus 385. Cotter with Stone and Stevenson. And Barbashev is third wheel with Marchessault and Nick Waugh. That Barbashev, Marchessault, Nick Waugh line has been very good for the last couple weeks here. So maybe one of those guys if you want a bit of a longer shot. Plus 280 for Barbashev, plus 385 for Paul Cotter. I think that's going to do it for us as we wrap up the show. I got to put this up on podcast. I guess a couple shout outs. Nick Taylor winning the Waste Management Open. Canadian Nick Taylor, you may remember him for winning the Canadian Open. So I don't know. Did you watch the Waste Management? Where do you land on this Waste Management Open? It seems like it's getting out of hand with all the drinking and partying there.
Did you see that they had to like halt alcohol sales? I saw a tweet. I don't know. I thought I saw something on Saturday or maybe it was Sunday, but I think it was Saturday where it was at like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. and they had to like stop alcohol sales because so many people were like blacking out, puking, passing out. It was like brutal. Yeah, like it's getting way out of hand.
I think it used to be like a fun thing, but yeah, it's getting serious. I follow Shooter McGavin on Twitter. You know,
I do too.
The villain and Happy Gilmore, and he's having this is like content goldmine for him. Just tweeting out quotes from Happy Gilmore. Go back to your shanties, and how am I supposed to chip here with that going on? So I'm curious what happens with the Wasted Management Open with all the drinking. I'm seeing shirtless guys doing belly flops through the grass. I mean, this is golf here. We're talking about this is golf. So I don't know how they're going to deal with this. And another shout out to Brad Jacobs and Reed Carruthers, their team taking down the Manitoba Curling Championship. So they'll be representing Manitoba next month at the Briar in Regina. So we're getting down to curling season. So big shout out to them. Reed Carruthers has been on this show many times, and Princess Auto, big sponsor of them and big sponsor of us as well. So we're time to wrap up the show. This is it. We are on podcast if you missed any of it. And I did mention all of our social medias. We do have a Discord server if you want to keep the conversation going. I'm seeing a lot of people in our chat who like chatting there as well. So it's in the chat or linked in the description of this video. Connor, thanks so much for coming on. I think you'll be back with me on Wednesday, correct?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for having me on. It was fun filling in for Huss, even though I don't want to fill in for him right now, knowing how he's feeling and how I'm feeling. But anyways, I'll be back Wednesday and Friday. I got class Tuesday, Thursday, but I'm confident in your abilities, Remo. Great work today, doing behind the scenes work and hosting. That takes a lot. So
doing everything. I'm sweating buckets. You're going to have to change my shirt after this one. Connor, yeah.
You're like Usher.
Connor, follow him as Connor Hrabchak 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter. Oh, before I remember, I think Hacksaw is live right now. So if you want to get some, I almost forgot this. If you want to get some more NFL talk and hear it from Hacksaw, I should be live right now. Oh, let me just do it on the computer. Oh, I almost got
hear his Super Bowl takes and his halftime show takes. I'm sure,
thank you.
Maybe he's a big Usher guy.
Thank you for reminding me. Okay, we never talked about the halftime show before. Okay, you're a bit younger than me. What did you think of the halftime show?
So I thought it started slow. First couple songs, we were all sitting there kind of going like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought it finished great. Like you had Ludacris come out and Alicia
John.
Keys was out there, Lil Jon. Yeah. Turned down for what? Like I liked it. I liked the back half a lot. The first half I was like, all right, let's pick up the pace here. And I feel like he left a few of his bigger songs out, but I did like the second half and getting Ludacris and Lil Jon out there.
Yeah. Okay.
What did you think?
I agree. I thought it started off slow. I didn't like how he started on the field. I'm like, what is this supposed to be a big halftime show? And it didn't feel big to me. I didn't like that, but I like that. I agree. It picked up. I actually didn't know a lot of the first couple of songs. And I run a pool for some friends. And one of the questions is always, who's the first song? Well, Other was this year's pick. There was like 5 options.
Yeah.
So that wasn't great. Usher's got to look at the betting and pick one that's being offered. It can't be Other, okay? And I thought they went through some of the songs too quickly. I'm a big fan of Usher's first album, My Way, and maybe it's too slow for the Super Bowl halftime. He did play that one where he took his shirt off. I mean, gotta look. That was a great part of the set, but the best part. Go ahead.
I was gonna say no sunglasses. I brought the Excel sheet, the prop bet sheet, to my Super Bowl party as well. One of the things was, will he be wearing sunglasses? Mm. Everyone put down yes, because it's Usher, and he's going to be obviously he's wearing sunglasses, and no sunglasses. It was shocking.
Yeah. All right, didn't have that one, but as it went on, I like when they got on the stage. The roller skating was incredible. He was actually singing, so we have to give props for that. What a talent.
Yeah.
Usher, and bringing in the best part for me was bringing in Ludacris for and Lil Jon. And shout out to Lil Jon was wearing the Golden Knights championship ring during that. So that I was a big fan of Usher, but could have used more from the first album. I forget. So it was. I don't know if it was as good. I'm trying to think of the last 4 if you want to rank them. The Dr. Dre one was the best one. Was Rihanna's better? And where's the Weeknd? Where's the Weeknd rank for you? So you got the
Weeknd's was my favorite of all the ones you mentioned there. I'm a big fan of the Weeknd, but I feel like that's a hot take. They posted all the Super Bowl performances leading up to the Super Bowl on their Instagram. The NFL did, and the Weeknd's post, everyone was like, "This was terrible. This was one of my least favorite." I was like, "What?" I loved that one. And then, the one you said with Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, that one was great as well. Those 2 are above the latest 2 for me, with a pretty big gap. Rihanna did great as well, but I just think those other 2 were fantastic. And then Usher, again, in the tier with Rihanna for me. Those 2 are kind of middling. And then the other 2, Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, The Weeknd, are A+ tier. Yeah,
I'm curious what they're going to do. We did see Roger Goodell talking with Taylor Swift in the suite. Maybe he's trying to talk her into it. I think she's too big. People do this for free for the promotion, and she doesn't need that promotion. Shout out to Tristan Rivers. He gives a shout out to HER, who ripped that guitar solo. You need a guitar solo. Prince setting the record for, or setting the precedent for guitar solos in the halftime show. And HER actually performed the anthem when she was 11 at a 49ers game and was at the halftime show doing the guitar solo yesterday. And I liked when they brought it to the stage. I liked the roller skating. A lot of comparisons to the outfits to the Globo Gym Purple Cobras from the movie Dodgeball, which I appreciated. That was the big joke on social media. So that's good. I'm glad we got our halftime takes in, because that's what we're all here for. So there it is. I've said it all. Said enough. Moving on. Give a shout out to Hacksaw. He's on talking about the Super Bowl as well. So thank you, everyone who came in and came today. We'll have CFL free agency tomorrow and more Winnipeg Jets updates as well with Mike McIntyre. See ya.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.